The rain had been falling since sunset, the kind that soaked through jackets and seeped into tired bones. Daniel Carter wiped the counter one last time and glanced at the clock above the diner door, 11:47 p.m. His shift was finally over. Daniel was 36, a single father, and a waiter by necessity, not by choice. Life hadn't given him many soft landings. His wife had passed away 5 years earlier after a sudden illness, leaving him alone with their 6-year-old daughter, Lily. Since then, his world revolved around school lunches, bedtime stories, and double shifts at the diner. He grabbed his worn coat, nodded goodbye to the cook, and stepped outside. The rain hit him instantly. The streetlights flickered as water pooled along the sidewalk. Daniel pulled his hood tighter and began the familiar walk home, 14 blocks through quiet streets, past closed shops and empty bus stops. He welcomed the silence. It gave him space to think about Lily, about whether she'd eaten enough dinner, about the math test she worried over that morning. Then he saw her. She stood under the broken awning of an old bookstore, drenched, shaking, clearly trying not to cry. She couldn't have been more than 22 or 23. Her hair clung to her face, her dress soaked through, her heels abandoned beside her like a bad decision. Daniel slowed. "Not my problem," a voice whispered in his head. He was exhausted. He was late. He had responsibilities. But another voice, quieter, deeper, answered back. What if that were Lily one day? He stopped. "Hey," Daniel said gently, keeping his distance. "Are you okay?" The young woman looked up, startled. Her eyes were wide, terrified, and searching for something solid in a night that had taken everything else. I think I'm lost," she said. "My phone died. I missed the last bus." Daniel glanced around. The street was empty. "Do you have somewhere safe to go?" he asked. She shook her head. Daniel exhaled slowly. He knew what this meant: time, effort, risk. Things he didn't have much of. But he also knew he wouldn't forgive himself if he walked away. "There's a cafe still open 2 blocks from here," he said. "You can dry off, charge your phone. I'll walk you." She hesitated, then nodded. "Thank you." They walked in silence, rain pounding the pavement between them. Inside the cafe, Daniel bought her a hot tea with the last cash in his pocket. She wrapped her hands around the cup like it was a lifeline. "My name's Emma," she said softly. "Daniel." She charged her phone, made a call, and finally relaxed when someone answered. 20 minutes later, a car pulled up outside. Before leaving, Emma stood and faced him. "You didn't have to stop," she said. "Most people wouldn't." Daniel shrugged. "Someone should." She smiled, small, grateful, unforgettable. And then she was gone. Life returned to normal, or as normal as it ever got. Daniel woke Lily for school, packed her lunch, walked her to the bus stop. He worked long shifts, counted tips carefully, stretched groceries across weeks. The rainy night faded into memory, just another quiet moment of doing the right thing. 3 days later, Daniel and Lily sat on the couch eating popcorn. The TV murmured in the background, the evening news rolling through stories of politics and traffic. Then Lily froze. She leaned forward, eyes wide. "Daddy." Daniel looked up. On the screen was a young woman standing at a podium, microphones clustered in front of her. She looked polished, confident, nothing like the soaked, shaking stranger from the rain. Lily pointed. "That's her," she whispered. "That's the lady." Daniel's heart skipped. "What lady, sweetheart?" "The one from the rain," Lily said. "The one you helped." Daniel stared. The reporter spoke. Emma Reynolds, daughter of prominent business leader Jonathan Reynolds, spoke today about her recent experience. Daniel barely heard the rest. His ears rang. His mind replayed the rain, the tea, the smile. Emma Reynolds, the missing heiress whose disappearance had been all over the news. Lily looked up at him, confused. "Daddy, is she famous?" Daniel swallowed hard. "I think, yes." The next day, Daniel returned to work as usual. He didn't tell anyone. What would he say? "I helped a rich man's daughter once." It felt unreal, like something that happened to someone else. Then, during the dinner rush, the diner door opened. The room seemed to quiet. A man in an expensive coat stepped inside, followed by a familiar face. "Emma." She scanned the room until her eyes landed on Daniel. Her face lit up. "It's him," she said, walking straight toward him. Daniel froze. "Hi," she said softly. "I hoped I'd find you." The man extended his hand. "Jonathan Reynolds, Emma's father." Daniel wiped his hands on his apron and shook it. "You saved my daughter," Jonathan said, voice thick with emotion. We've been looking for you. I just helped her get out of the rain, Daniel replied. Emma shook her head. You did more than that. You treated me like a human being when I was scared and alone. Jonathan offered Daniel a reward, more money than Daniel had ever seen. Daniel looked at the envelope, then shook his head. I appreciate it, he said. But I didn't help her for that. Emma's eyes filled with tears. What can we do for you? Jonathan asked quietly. Daniel thought of Lily, her future, her dreams. Just help me believe kindness still matters, he said. Jonathan nodded. It does. And it always will. That night, Daniel tucked Lily into bed. Daddy, she asked, sleepy-eyed. You're my hero, right? Daniel smiled and kissed her forehead. No, sweetheart, I'm just someone who stopped. Lily yawned. I hope I stop too. Daniel turned off the light, his heart full. Outside, rain began to fall again, but this time, it sounded like hope. The rain was relentless that night, heavy, cold, and unforgiving. It soaked the streets, blurred the city lights, and pressed down on everything it touched. For Michael Hayes, it was just another night he had to survive. Michael was a single father in his late 30s, working as a waiter in a small roadside restaurant. Life hadn't been kind to him. His wife had left years ago, unable to handle the weight of poverty and responsibility, leaving behind their 5-year-old daughter, Sophie. Since then, Michael lived on tips, patience, and quiet sacrifices. Every night, he worked until closing, then walked home to a tiny apartment where Sophie slept beside a nightlight shaped like a star. That night, as Michael stepped outside after his shift, the rain greeted him like an old enemy. He sighed and started walking. Halfway down the street, he noticed someone sitting on the curb near a bus stop, soaked, motionless, and alone. At first, he looked away. He was tired. His feet ached. Sophie would be waiting. Then he heard a soft sob. Michael stopped. A young woman sat there, hugging her knees, mascara streaked down her face, her phone dark and lifeless in her hand. She looked completely broken. Miss, Michael said carefully, are you hurt? She looked up, startled, fear flashing across her face. I don't know what to do, she whispered. I lost everything tonight. Michael glanced around. The street was empty. The buses had stopped running hours ago. Let's get you somewhere dry, he said. She hesitated, then nodded. Michael led her to the restaurant, now closed, and convinced the manager to let them sit inside for a few minutes. He gave her his own jacket and bought her soup with the last of his money. My name is Claire, she said, voice trembling. Thank you for not walking away. Michael shrugged. I've been where you are. Claire charged her phone and made a call, but no one answered. Tears welled up again. I think I ruined my life, she said. Michael sat across from her. One bad night doesn't define you. She looked at him like no one had ever spoken to her that way before. Eventually, a rideshare arrived. Before leaving, Claire gripped Michael's hand. I'll never forget this, she said. Michael smiled tiredly. You don't have to. Just get home safe. And just like that, she was gone. Days passed. Michael returned to his routine, waking Sophie, walking her to school, working long shifts, stretching every dollar. The rainy night became just another memory tucked away among many hard ones. Then came Sunday evening. Michael and Sophie sat on the couch eating noodles from the same bowl, watching TV. A breaking news alert flashed across the screen. Sophie gasped. Daddy, I know her. Michael looked up. On the screen stood a young woman addressing reporters. Her face was calm, confident, familiar. Claire. The reporter spoke. Claire Morgan, whistleblower in the recent corporate corruption case, has come forward after days of being missing. Michael's chest tightened. Sophie pointed. That's the lady who was crying in the rain. Michael couldn't speak. The woman he had helped wasn't just anyone, she was the center of a national scandal. The reason powerful people were being arrested. The reason the city had been buzzing with rumors. Claire had been running for her life. The next morning, Michael found an envelope slipped under his apartment door. Inside was a handwritten note. You told me one bad night doesn't define me. You were right. I found the courage to speak because someone believed in me when I felt invisible. Claire. Michael folded the letter carefully and placed it beside Sophie's drawings. Weeks later, Michael received a phone call. Mr. Hayes, a voice asked. This is Claire Morgan. I've been trying to find you. They met at a quiet cafe. Claire explained everything, the threats, the fear, the night she almost gave up. Michael listened silently. You saved me, Claire said. Not by hiding me, but by reminding me I mattered. Michael shook his head. I just listened. Claire smiled. That's rare. She offered help, connections, opportunities, money. Michael thought of Sophie. Just promise me one thing, he said. Use your voice for people who don't have one. Claire nodded. I already am. Months later, Michael no longer worked at the restaurant. A community center had offered him a stable job, thanks to a recommendation that came from an unexpected place. One rainy evening, Sophie held Michael's hand as they walked home. Daddy, she said, if I see someone sad one day, should I stop? Michael smiled. Yes, he said softly. Always stop. The rain fell gently around them, no longer heavy, just enough to remind the world that even storms have purpose.